Welcome back to RX Muscle Recap, brought to you by Quest Nutrition. Visit questnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I am here now with the IFBB Arnold Australia promoter, MC, the guy who makes it all happen over there down under, our good friend Tony Doherty.
Well, good morning to from here, and good evening to you.
Yeah, well, you're into Tuesday already. We're only Monday right here, so you're ahead of us. But I know you probably didn't get very much sleep this past weekend.
Well, I figured out. I had an early night last night, and I figured I'd had 25 hours sleep in a week.
Tony, did you ever say to yourself, "What did I bite off here?" Because I know you love doing it, but it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because in the week leading up to it, you're so exhausted and you're getting minimal sleep, and then of course the phone's going to ring 2 or 3 times per night while you're asleep. I have to leave my phones on 24 hours, and someone's missed their flight, or someone didn't get a visa, or someone got sick, all this kind of thing. And leading up to the show, you just think, you know, what have I bitten off here? And you think, why do I do this? And I can't wait for it to be over. And people say, oh, you must be excited about the show. And I say, I'm excited about like next Tuesday when everyone's gone home. But it's a funny thing. During the weekend, you run on adrenaline the whole time. And there's a tipping point where you just think, you don't think, I can't wait for this to be over. You think, I don't want this to stop. It's so fucking good. It's so exciting. And that's probably the best time is when you hit that tipping point and you're in the middle of it and you just don't want it to end.
When we originally started doing these interviews with you, this was back in maybe '09. When you were doing the Australian Grand Prix and we do the radio interviews, and obviously, you know, you've built that show to monumental proportions to the point where the Arnold, Schwarzenegger crew came in there and wanted to become your partner. You made them that happen a couple of years ago. Now it's probably the biggest show in your neck of the woods, that's for sure, by far. And it's turned into like a destination place. I've never seen so many people from the United States fly over to Australia.
Yeah, that's really cool. You know, we've got some VIP customers now that come out every year. You know, there's one father and son team that fly out just for the experience. You know, and the amount of bikini and figure and fitness athletes, you know, that paid their own way in to come and be part of the show. It was incredible, and their fans, and a lot of them brought their families this year, and it's really overwhelming, Dave, when you see that. You know, people stop me for a photograph, and you hear the American accent or the Canadian accent, and you think, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, you'd have to basically go to the U.S. and recruit these guys to actually come to the Arnold Australia. Now people want to go there. It's like almost like an honor to be invited there. So things have changed quite a bit. Let's get into the show, Tony, because there was a little bit of controversy there. Brandon Currie came in off the win in New Zealand the week before. Obviously came in as a heavy favorite, but a lot of people thought that Dallas McCarver was going to be the guy to knock him down a few rungs because Dallas put up a tremendous performance at the Arnold USA against Cedric McMillan, finished second there. Talk to me, first of all, about Brandon Currie. How impressed were you with him?
Look, I was really, really impressed. In fact, I saw the pictures of him in Kuwait getting in great shape, and I contacted him and said, I see that you're not on the Columbus schedule. This is only 3 or 4 weeks out, but I really think you could get yourself in shape for my show, and we'd love to have you here, and I think you'd come in as a favourite. I've travelled a lot with Brandon, and he's been out here before, and, you know, obviously he won the Arnold in South America a couple of years back, and everyone's always said this guy's got so much potential, and I saw those shots and thought, finally he's hit his potential, right? So, you know, we went to a great effort, him and I together, to get him here. So I was really excited to have him in the show, and I knew that we had a kind of weaker lineup this year with Dallas not coming in, with Cedric not coming in, with Josh having to pull out. I'm like, we need a bit of a wild card to create some interest and some hype. So it was the perfect adversary to Dallas, who's had this big giant, you know, with all this potential, versus this amazing symmetrical genius who's never really hard for a show. And, you know, I thought that Dallas, you know, look, I knew he wasn't quite 100% well in Columbus, and I thought he's either going to get a whole lot better or a whole lot worse. And even when he left New Zealand, you know, he was committed to come in and beat Brandon. And I think he pushed himself to the edge, obviously, and made himself more sick. But it was great having Brandon in the show.
There's nothing worse than being sick and then having to travel 24 hours on an airplane and then competing, and then get it back on an airplane and going to another show. So I'm sure Dallas's immune system was destroyed at that point. And I hear you're sick too, so it seems to be going around. Everyone seems to be getting a little sick.
No, I'm not sick. I'm not sick. I don't get sick. No, not true.
You don't have time. You don't have time to get sick, Tony. Let's face it.
No, honestly, I'm not sick. I'm 100%. I'm a little tired, but I'm not sick at all. No.
Okay. All right. Denial's fine. Let's talk about Dallas. What happened on stage?
I tell you, if I was sick, I'd go. Listen, if I was sick, I'd go for some sympathy, but I'm not.
What happened to Dallas from your perspective, from watching from the stage there?
Well, I wasn't at the pre-judging because, unfortunately, with this event getting bigger and bigger, I don't really get to see much of the expo, and I don't get to see the pre-judging sometimes because I'm with Arnold doing press stuff or dinners or whatever else. So I was off doing something with Arnold and completely missed the pre-judging, and I didn't know anything about it until I put my suit on and went to the finals. And I always go, as soon as I get there, I go backstage and see all the competitors. And my stage manager, Sean, shot me a text as I was walking in the door saying, Dallas is not well and he's on a drip backstage. You might want to come and see him. So as soon as I walked in, I went to see he was okay. And as a promoter, my first thought was, well, if he's okay, we'll pull the drip out and get him to do his routine at least.
Right. Clear
it with Steve. So I went and saw Steve Weinberger and he said, honestly, Tony, he's not well. He said, go and make a call with him, but I think he's done. So I went backstage and I took one look at him and I said, Dallas, I'm not even going to ask you to pose tonight. He was really pale. He was sitting back in our green room, in a big-ass chair with a drip. And he was obviously really, really unwell. He could hardly speak with his bronchitis and he was obviously heavily dehydrated. And I just said to him, Dallas, you're young and the most important thing you've got in your life is your health. And our duty of care is to not push you to do this. And he said, no, but I said, no. Game over. I'll do that. I know you probably feel terrible. Why don't we get you when you feel hands? But you need to look at that's number one. And I think that's where it ended right there and then. And he came up on stage, and I just said, before I introduced him, I just said to the folks in the crowd that, as a promoter and MC, I'm really disappointed. As fans, you're disappointed. I said, but nobody is more disappointed than Dallas. He's absolutely shattered, and he was emotional, and he certainly didn't do it on purpose or try and get out of the show. There was nothing like that at all. The guy was fucking genuinely sick. So he got up and he spoke really well, and he received fantastic applause from the crowd, and everybody forgave him, and that was the end of the story. There was no more drama than that as far as I was concerned. The guy was sick. We did the right thing. He dealt with it, I thought, in a very humble and manly way, and that was that.
Well, that's the way it should be done, because we don't need to see any more people dying in our industry, not over a stupid show. And I think that was a smart decision. He obviously was sick. He was in respiratory distress because of his bronchitis. Being a guy, almost 300 pounds probably doesn't help either when you get sick like that. And I'm sure he was refusing to take antibiotics because he was competing and he thought it would make him hold water. When you hear comments out of Sean Ray's mouth, blaming Chad Nichols, his coach, for nearly killing him, doesn't that kind of make you upset that we have people who try to create stories and gossip where it doesn't exist?
Well, it doesn't worry me because I hadn't heard anything about Sean Ray's comments until we were just talking now. But Sean thrives on gossip. He's never been any different, and he's a drama queen. He loves drama, and I think he makes a living out of being the drama queen of bodybuilding. I remember when we had the press conferences back in the 90s, and they'd have the arguments at the press conference. It was always Sean,
right,
drawing attention to himself. Right, it was always Sean, right, coming up with some kind of problem about not being fair, or the short guys not getting looked at, and the next year it'll be something else. And look, I like Sean, and it's great that he comes out and covers the show. But I think he's like, like a politician when they say out there things to get attention and to get votes. I think, he wants people to shop. Maybe his ratings were dropping a little bit, so he thought, shit, I better come up with something. But I didn't know anything about that. And it surprises me because when you get a respiratory infection, it's got nothing to do with your coach, right, or your supplements or your training or anything else. It's got to do with getting a fucking bug in your lungs, right, and not being able to have a rest. I think Dallas, Arnold had got a cold and flu right before he flew as well. We had to kind of nurse him for the first day, but he was able to take some antibiotics and get well. but he was also fighting an illness, and there was a couple of things we had to cancel and postpone, and we had to move a press conference. And would Sean come out and say, "Oh, yeah, Arnold's cycling coach caused that. He pushed him too hard." I mean, fuck.
Let's.
I don't know. I've got nothing else to say about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're looking at pictures as we're talking to you on the RXmuscle.com contest gallery. Thanks to Darren Burns, who took some great shots out there this past weekend for us. Let's talk about.
He just sent me some overnight. They're fantastic.
Yeah, he's awesome. There's no. I wish he lived in the U.S. He's so responsible. The guy responds. He gets pictures up quickly. I don't have to tell him anything. He's a gem you got over there for. You shouldn't let that guy go.
He's one of a kind, and he started out as a VIP fan coming to my shows. And
oh, really?
He'd always send me these fantastic pictures. And I remember one year he went to the Olympia. I think it was 1 year I couldn't go. It might have been like 94 or 95. I've known him that long. He took these unbelievable photos of Sonny and of Kevin Levrone, and some of them I've got hanging up in my gym. And he used to always send me a copy. This is before digital film. He'd go to the trouble, go out and print them and send them to me. And he's got them all archived. He's like a very organised, like a little bit Rain Man. He remembers numbers and dates and times, and he's so efficient. When you need something done, you call him. He's on it. Yeah. In fact, I emailed him at 10 o'clock last night to get some pictures. Arnold presented me with an achievement award, this beautiful bronze statue.
Wow.
And I hadn't seen any pictures of it. I'm like, shit, no one got the shot. So I emailed Darren right before I went to bed last night. He sent them overnight, and he's already emailed me before I woke up to see did I get the email. So yes, Darren, I got it. I'll hit you back soon.
Yeah, he's awesome. Talk to me about Max Charles. Surprise. I don't think anyone saw Max Charles coming.
No surprise. No surprise. I saw Max in Columbus last year, and I thought he was really hardly done by at that show. He had cross striations in his chest that we haven't seen for years. He was the driest guy on stage. And last year in Columbus, I had him as fourth or fifth. I had him right behind Josh.
Right.
So this year, when he moved up the ranks in Columbus, was he third in Columbus?
Yeah.
I think he really arrived, and I'm a big fan of Max Charles. I think he's got the widest shoulders you've ever seen. He's got that dry, grainy look that everyone keeps asking for. He's not bloated. He doesn't have a gut.
Right.
He's brought his legs up sufficiently to start knocking on the door of the top ranks. And I think if Dallas had been in the show, that he would have pushed him all the way.
Yeah, I agree. Max Charles is also probably the only bodybuilder I've ever seen who could wear a 6X sweatshirt and fill it out in the gym. Never seen anyone do that before.
Man, he really is that wide, and I think people just haven't sort of recognised how good he is, and you can't ignore someone like that for too long because he never comes in a show out of shape. He's not one of these guys who, I wonder what he's... I mean, Brandon, let's face it, for years we've all said if he just got hard, he could win anything. We've been waiting for this moment. Yeah. Whereas Max, the reason I invited Max to the show, because I knew he'd be in shape no matter what. Right. He wouldn't get on stage if he wasn't. And he's a really good guy to work with. From a promoter's point of view, he was flawless. He performed well. He's grateful. And, shout out to Max. I really like the guy, and I think he's got a great future.
Let's talk about another guy that I call the enigma of bodybuilding because you really can't predict where this guy's coming from, and he always comes in and impresses. He always is the most conditioned guy in the show. Michael Lockett, who finishes in third here. Give me your impression of him.
So your sound went a little funky there. Can you say that again?
Michael Lockett. Talk to me about Michael Lockett and what he brought to the stage because he's one of these guys that, you don't know what you're going to get with him. He's kind of an enigma. He's here, he's there, but he really seemed like he showed up in terrific condition in Australia.
Yeah, he sure did. He was really grateful for the opportunity to come out here and showed up in great shape. I've never seen him compete before, so I'd only seen a couple of pictures. And I saw him live. I thought he had really round, full muscle bellies. He was ultra conditioned and certainly posed well, and I thought he delivered. He came in on point and was in great shape. We didn't have a really huge lineup or a deep lineup, but everyone was in shape. No one messed up at all.
And the other guy who really impressed me in this lineup, at least from the photos, was Jeff Beckham, who we all knew has terrific structure, terrific shape. He's an amazing poser on stage. What does Beckham need to do to take that next step to start winning some shows?
One thing he's just got to proportionally grow a little bit more, just get a little bit bigger all over. Like from the pictures I'd seen, he was actually smaller in the pictures than what he was this time. So I think he's on the right track. So I was expecting him to be a little bit smaller. And when I saw him, backstage and walking, I said, hey, this guy's pretty good. I think he's got to pick his shows and just be, I guess, like Michael Lockett, that guy that comes in shape. I say to amateurs, I say to pros all the time, conditioning wins shows. Stop weighing yourself. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
I remember back in, I think it was like 92 when Vince Taylor won the Arnold Classic and Benaziza was second and Sonny was third. And the guy had skin like glass. And it was the first time I'd ever seen conditioning like that. I remember sitting next to his wife and I said, what's he weigh today? Like 225, 230? She said, no, he's like 205 pounds.
Yeah.
So he would have been a 212 winner, but he won the Open Arnold. And it was because he had, apart from that crazy posing, his conditioning was so good that he looked 20 or 30. And I think some of these guys, they just worry too much about that big number. I want to be 260, 270, 100, 300, whatever. And the fact is, they're not conditioned.
Right.
And they look to me like they're 3 or 4 weeks out of contest shape.
Yep.
So my advice to anyone competing that wants to win shows, be that guy that's freaky conditioned. And, I think you get Michael Lockett, you get Jeff Beckham, they already know how to get in shape. And same with Max Charles. The hardest thing, Dave, in bodybuilding is to peak for a show. Now, there's 3 guys who've got that shit worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not these big blobs who just hope that they're going to be in shape. These guys are in shape, as you should be. 2-3 weeks before the show, they're in shape, and then they can just dial in really easily. They don't need to do anything crazy, and they look healthy, and they move well, and they look like they're having fun because they know they're in shape. So that's my summary.
Let's talk about another guy who was in tremendous condition. I don't even know how you talked him into doing the show, but Guy Cisternino finishes in 5th, a 212 competitor, doing the open competition and making the top 5. That had to be it. How did you get him to do the show? You must have twisted his arm somehow.
Well, it really only happened when I found out that Cedric wasn't coming and Josh had pulled out. I thought, shit, I need to add a little, you know me as a promoter, I'm always looking for an angle to add some flavour. I just won't accept no or this and that. And I knew he was coming in for his sponsor. I think it was Centurion Labs or something. And they'd asked the guy that was bringing him, said, look, can you put me on to someone that can help with contest prep food for Guy Cisternino because he's coming off Columbus and he's getting ready for another show in a couple of weeks. And of course, to me, that's like coming out here in shape to be on a booth, and I've got to have diet food for him. Why don't we put him in the official hotel and get some tan on him and get him in the show? Because some of the newer guys that were in the show were also probably only 215 or 220 pounds.
Right.
And Guy's so experienced. He's got I like guys that got a big following, and Guy's so popular. I know that people have been asking me to bring him out for years just as a guest. Right. And I see, my Instagram, his name's always popping up every hour that he's doing some live thing. And this guy's got a great following. I've always had a really good relationship with Guy. So I shot him a message. In fact, I shot him a message on Instagram, a direct message, and said, hey, you're coming out here to, do nothing? Why don't you be part of the show? We'd love to have you in it. And I'm not going to do 212 anytime soon. He's been begging me to do that. Are you in? And within 5 minutes, he goes, yes, I think I'm going to do it. And within an hour, he said, send me a contract. So that's how it happened. Just a little bit of promotional genius and also a guy who's got enough vision to do something that was smart and good for his career and to really get noticed. So I think it was just win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the fitness division. Oksana Grishina, who's just can't lose pretty much in that division. She was very impressive in Columbus. How did she look, and how did the routine come off? Did she do her ring routine there in Australia? No, because the rings kind of got stuck on the floor in Columbus. Didn't quite pan out the way she'd practiced for. Yeah. And travelling with the ring and all the rest of it, she said, what, I've had this routine I've been working on for a long time. I'm going to do that because it's going to be my last time in Australia competing. And when I interviewed her for NPC backstage at Columbus, she said, this is the last time I'm ever going to compete in Columbus. And then I'm going to do Australia for the last time. Then I'm going to do Olympia, and that'll be my last contest ever. Oh, wow. So for us, it was kind of like, in fact, when they were walking off, I just stopped everyone and said, Oksana, can you just come out and take a bow so we can say goodbye and thank you? Because you're just incredible. I think the greatest fitness athlete we've ever seen, and she could go and win it for as long as she wanted. She's, in my books, first, second, and third. Why do you think she's stopping, Tony? Well, this is the coolest thing, Dave. I actually asked her on air and off air. And she said, because
I've done everything I ever wanted to achieve, and I want to help others, and I want other girls to be able to win the show. And as long as I'm competing, no one else can win. It's my turn to pass that on. And I thought that was the most gracious thing I've ever heard an elite athlete say.
Yeah.
I was really moved by it. And I said, really? She said, really? I'm not only I'm going to pass it on, I'm going to help them, and I'm going to coach them, I'm going to be there for them.
Good.
And it's someone else's turn to have this glory. I've done everything I wanted to do, and now it's time to step back. And I just thought, wow, how many elite sports people, most people don't know when it's time to walk away, but to do it graciously like that, I just thought that was just a really, really classy move.
Yeah, I thought so too. What did you think about the figure battle you had up there? You had you basically had the top 3 at the Olympia there. I mean, it was pretty crazy.
Man, I think we had the top 10 from the Olympia there. We had 21 girls in figure, and everyone was in shape. It was the best figure lineup I've ever seen outside of the US, outside of the Olympia. It was just insane, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Latoya, and I knew she'd tighten up a lot from Columbus. And you know, Candice, we've always thought she could win big shows, but she never had her legs quite dialed in. And Cindy Gillen, you know, and you've got 3 girls with very similar genetic structure.
Yeah.
And we thought, remember, I think you and I talked about it after the Olympia. You go, those 3 can be top 3 for as long as they want, because it's just not fair. It's just not fair on the other kids. You know, when you've got 3 girls whose shoulders are naturally this wide, with this tiny little waist, and these flaring thighs. It's just like, and you see the girls, you know, making up the top 6, which are all of one shows. You know, Jennifer and Kamala and these girls. And you think it's just not fair that these genetic freaks have come all at once. And how do you split them? I mean, any of those, that top 3 could mix around in any order any day, week to week. If you had a 50-week tour, you'd probably have 20 different results. And I was thrilled to have them there, and for the Australian crowd to get to see the very best in the world.
Why do you think the judges went with Candice Lewis over the reigning Miss Olympia, Latoya Watts? What was your take on it?
Well, in Columbus, I think when I talked to a couple of judges, they thought that Latoya was a little flat at the pre-judging on the expo stage. She just didn't have that normal pop.
Right.
And I think it wasn't that she got worse. I think it was that the others improved. So I think Latoya bought the package that wins shows, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not knowing that Candice Lewis was actually going to improve and bring her legs, you know, down inside with more separation, and it's very hard with figure, because if you get any harder than that, you've probably crossed the line. You're too hard.
Right.
So they're probably right at the edge of, I don't know, it must be hard being a judge, Dave. I'm not a judge, so I don't know. But I just think those 3 are all really, really awesome. But I mean, I think Latoya's just she's like the Lee Haney or the Linda Murray figure. She's incredible. I don't see how she gets beat, but obviously she was a little flat or just not quite popping, or the others just went forward a little bit more. So she's very smart. She'll now, I mentioned, go back with her coach and say, let's come up with a new game plan. Let's have a look at what won, and let's just do a little bit more of that.
Yeah, I think that they went for a softer look the last couple of years, and now they seem to have upped the conditioning again. And I think Latoya got caught off guard, because I think last year that look would have won, and then this year it wasn't good enough. So I think you're right. I think she'll go back to the drawing board and tighten it up. Let's talk about bikini, Tony. Angelica Teixeira seems to be the new it girl in the bikini division. She beat Courtney King not only at the Arnold USA, but also here in Australia now. Is she the favorite for the Olympia, you think, going in?
Yeah, without a doubt. She's fantastic. And once again, we had the top 5 from the Olympia in our bikini show. We had 27 girls in our bikini lineup, Dave. It was phenomenal. And they were all in shape, and some great new competitors that we'd not seen before with Europeans, this and that. So I wasn't surprised at all that she won. And, you know, she had a real hard time getting her visa. We only got it issued, I think, on the Monday before the show, and she tried for weeks and weeks. And she just wouldn't give in. And she came out with her husband, Marco, and they're just really nice people, which, you know, makes it like a little bit sweeter when they're good people. And they loved Australia, and I thought she was the rightful winner. The one who I thought improved a lot from Columbus to Melbourne was Janet. I thought she, you know, finally bought, because she's so pretty and she's got such a great look. And I think everyone would love to see her winning shows. And she, in fact, in Australia looked, I think, maybe 15, 20% better than she did in Columbus. Her glutes were in, her hammies look good. She's always got those great abs, but she doesn't get too hard. So I thought she was the most improved. You know, and then some really good girls kind of got lost in that lineup, like Justine, I thought would have been top 3 or 4, and she wasn't. and it must be really. And Stephanie's another one who really brought her A game and didn't play so high. And look, when I go to the big shows, I'm the worst bikini judge of all.
Me too.
Right? Because they all look awesome. They're chicks in bikinis. They're all hot. And how do you? I wouldn't make a very good bikini judge because I just give them all first.
Yeah. I personally like Janet Like. I liked her in Columbus. I thought she should have won. I looked at the pictures. She definitely tightened up even more. I don't know what they'll. I mean, I know she won in Australia 2 years ago, defeating the Miss Olympia at the time when it was held by Ashley Kaltwasser. I thought she did enough to win here. That's a look that I like as a man. I look at that and I'm like, that's the best bikini body in the world.
Yeah. I don't argue with that, but I think they've all just a little bit of a different structure and different look. And Angelica's also, I think, she's also an amazing competitor.
Yeah.
Courtney, I didn't think she improved, or I can't see how she can beat Janet. But I'm not a judge, so I'll just leave that to them.
But anyway, Tony, I want to thank you for giving us this little summary of what went on at the Arnold Australia. I want to congratulate you again on putting on a fantastic show and making this thing grow every single year. Hopefully one of these days, now that my son is getting a little older, I'll be able to get out there again and enjoy the festivities. But congratulations.
Well, Dave, we've missed you, and you've got to make it happen and stop making excuses. And thanks, Johnny, and all the team at RX. We love coming on, but the other thing, I just want to thank all the fans that come out. We had over 75,000 people come through the expo. We had a lot of great mainstream media. We had 40 different sports and 12,000 athletes, and that's where the real growth is. And to all the athletes that came out, the sponsors and the fans, thank you. We couldn't do it without you, and we certainly appreciate your support always.
All right, Tony, thank you very much. That's going to take us to the end of another episode of RX Muscle Recap, brought to you by Quest Nutrition. Visit questnutrition.com. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we'll see you next time.